with all due respect.
Record. All right, guys. So we are here for part 2. Part 1 was 3 things that are keeping you from losing weight, right? That have nothing to do with diet and exercise. There were hormones, the gut, environmental factors, right? We had a great response from people on this. I think a lot of people listened and were like, hey, this is me. My hormones are all messed up. When in actuality, let's all agree that the majority of people that tell me their hormones are messed up and they don't have any testing, they're just not compliant, I would say. Right? Would that be true, Mike? Most people, everybody comes to me and says my hormones are messed up and they're just not compliant on their plan. But there are those people who have legitimate hormone issues and they live a pretty tough life. Things are hard. Things are frustrating for them. Mm-hmm. Whether it's all kinds of hormones in the body, the thyroid, whatever it is, they struggle with energy, feeling better, losing weight, digestion, metabolism. It's real. I've been on the phone with Mike with people that have, Mike has pointed out where they're struggling and where their hormones are off, the things to do. And the things to do for it are pretty disciplined. It's pretty hard. There are a lot of people that just don't want to go to drugs these days, right? I think there are. I think there are a lot of people that I hear more and more people say, I just don't want to take a pill. Yeah. I don't want to have to take a pill. I'm on that pill forever and it changes me forever. I'm now different, right? If you're watching this video and you think you're one of those people and you call us and you say, I want to do a consult. I want to see if my hormones are off. Mike, what is the first action step if you're watching this video that you need to do if you think you have some hormone issues just based off anecdotal evidence?
Right. So the first thing people need to understand is we're going to be talking about subclinical hormone issues, meaning you don't have a pathology or disease. Mm-hmm. So like if you have something like a tumor on your pituitary gland, or if you have like Graves' disease or Cushing's disease, like these adrenal diseases,
Hashimoto's type stuff. Hashimoto's, is that?
Well, Hashimoto's is a little bit more subtle. Yeah, but I'm talking about like very, very distinct, significant pathology. Again, you're not going to be having a conversation with us. That's going to be with an endocrinologist.
Yes, yes.
So everything we're talking about is subclinical, to where people also need to understand when you go to your physician, their number one goal in life is make sure that your heart continues to beat. And your insurance provider has no interest in the optimization of your health, which is what we're very concerned about in terms of not just surviving this life, but thriving within this life. So here's a very interesting quote, and this is taken directly from Medicare, the manual on Medicare. Care that seeks to prevent disease, promote health, and prolong and enhance the quality of life is not considered medically necessary and therefore not payable. So like I said, your insurance company doesn't care. They do not care at all about the optimization of your health. They definitely care about the bottom line in terms of how much money they're shelling out for your care, which is why they don't want you to run a lot of extra tests that aren't medically necessary. So when we get into these subclinical states where no, you technically don't have a thyroid pathology, but you feel like garbage and you have a lot of thyroid symptoms. So what do we do for this person? Medically, they don't do anything. They sit and wait until you fall within a certain diagnostic criteria, and then it's medically necessary, and then you get treatment. So that gray space in between feeling healthy and being diseased, you can exist in that state for years and have nothing done. And so that's where you need to be thinking about, oh, well, I've had a physical, my doctor's done my blood work. I'm sure you've all heard people say this. And then you look at the labs and it's maybe $20 worth of labs. Like when you go to your doctor and you get a CBC and a CMP and a lipid panel, it looks like a lot of values. But literally when LabCorp runs those panels, like if you pay cash for those panels, a CBC is $3. So like when your physician bills $75 for that to your insurance company, it's literally $3 at the lab. That's the markup. So understanding, hey, this is only 20 bucks worth of labs. This isn't a lot of data. How can I get the rest of that data? That's step number one. So understanding, all right, so we're really not going to be diagnosed with anything. So my doc's not going to really do anything and keep digging unless I ask for that. So once you're getting past that, then you need to recognize, I probably need to start investigating this a little bit further. We talked about that in the last video that we did in terms of how to go about asking for that, or self-pay, cash pay. And so that's where you need to be thinking about, all right, I need more data. And if your physician runs it, great. Just be aware that there's one of two things that'll happen. They'll code it well and you won't get billed for it, which is the best outcome, or they'll code it poorly and insurance will slap you with a bill for a couple $100, whereas you could have just paid cash and it would have probably been 25 to 30% of the total cost that insurance will bill you for. So
that sounds criminal.
Yeah.
Does that sound criminal to anybody? Like, should that sound illegal to somebody?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well, I was also going to ask too, if you were to run the test through somewhere like LabCorp versus going through your physician, how would you best read the test without a physician there with you?
Right.
Or if you had a physician that didn't really explain it to you, like what would be a route that you take to make sure that you understand?
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably point number 2. You've got your data. You've at least run all the markers that you're hoping to see. Number one thing I would tell every single person is, do not jump down the Google rabbit hole. Do not do that, because you'll find a lot of information on there. But the thing that's lacking for most people is a lens to view that contextually, because people will see, oh, headaches is the number one presenting sign and symptom for brain tumor. Oh, crap, I got a headache. That must mean I have a brain tumor.
Right.
No, probably not. You're just dehydrated and maybe you're magnesium deficient. So that's where, when you get these labs back, there's some good guides that are available online, maybe referencing one of those. But really, it would be working with somebody who not only understands, hey, this is a much bigger problem, you need to go see somebody who's a specialist in the medical world, or, this is kind of something that you need to be aware of, can be shifted with X, Y, and Z variable that you can control as a patient that don't require a prescription. And so that's kind of where, as Josh and I have sat down with a number of folks and talked through these things, everything that we talk through, it's not diagnostic. So I'm not telling this person they have X, Y, or Z disease at all, but it's more so explaining to them, hey, this is what this lab means. This is what's happening inside your body. So then when you know that, it's not saying you do this, this, and this, and it will definitely reverse that, but it's more so explaining, this is what's happening. If you do this over here, it's going to have this opposite effect that will preferentially shift this marker. So once you understand that, the third thing to keep in mind is that when you look at your labs, you're going to see a reference range with a high and a low. Within that reference range, it is age and gender dependent. And usually it's well established, those reference ranges, the top and bottom, are for pathology only. So if you're outside of those, you probably have some sort of disease etiology taking place in the body.
Okay.
If you're inside of those, at either the top or the bottom end of those reference ranges, you can feel like absolute garbage and nothing's going to happen.
But you don't have a disease.
Right. So let's say females are classic for this. So you can run serum iron. So that's the iron in the bloodstream right then and there. Or you can run a ferritin, which is stored iron. And I can't tell you the number of females that I've talked to that they're like, oh yeah, my doc checks my iron all the time. It's fine. It's 120. Cool. Let's run a ferritin real quick. And their ferritin will be 7. So that tells me this person basically has nothing in storage. So if they stop eating red meat, or they decide to do, I don't know, meatless January or something for like a New Year's kick, and all of a sudden their iron gets completely removed out of their diet, that's a major problem. So we need to have that data to really see what's taking place there. And so that's where you need to understand that it's like, you can still be in this reference range, feel like complete garbage, and that's subclinical. Same with thyroid, same with iron, all these different things. So that would kind of be the third piece for people to understand. Look at those values. You can probably, roughly speaking, you can probably take off a quarter of each end. So 25% of each end of that reference range. And if you're falling within that for most of the values, that's pretty good in terms of health optimization. If you're within that bottom or top 25th percentile, then you want to start looking at the general trend of everything else that's taking place and start asking questions for why you might be pushing the boundaries one way or the other.
So the best example we can give to people for if a guy's watching this, the most common thing men look at is their testosterone levels, right?
Right.
Testosterone ranges are 300 to 900 or 3 to 12.
12, I think.
they shift because now everybody's losing testosterone slowly but surely. So it's slowly going down, but it's like 300 to 1100, I think.
Yeah, 300 to 1100. I can tell you from personal experience, there's a huge difference in 300 and 1100. It's not even the same planet.
Right.
Right. I was 347.
Yep.
And I've been 12.
Yep.
That ain't even, you're not even, you're playing the game, but one's a little league and one's professional.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. So that's when I hear like guys come to me like, oh, my doctor said my 27-year-old male, my doctor said my testosterone's within normal level. It's 470. Yeah, but that's pretty low, right?
Yeah. Keep in mind, your doctor is educated on diseases, and that's fine. That's great.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. But if you're really looking to tweak within that range and shift it in a different variable, other than giving you the compound, there's not a whole lot else on their radar.
Yeah. So yes, they'll just give you the testosterone. They won't look at food, sleep, exercise, lifting, stress, previous history, right? They won't look at any of that. They'll just say, go to the hormone doctor and get the shot.
The fastest way to stomp on somebody's testosterone, overtrain them, deprive them of sleep, dehydrate them, and underfeed them for about 5 to 7 days and rerun their testosterone. Yeah, you'll get put on T real quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say it's important to mention too, like if you're seeing a doctor currently that isn't answering these questions for you or is like avoidant of these questions, it's okay to like switch physicians, and please switch physicians.
Sure. Absolutely. Second opinion. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
If you're watching this video and you're like, hey, I might have hormone issues, or if you're a female, what kind of symptoms the right word? I don't know. What kind of issues would somebody be coming to you with that you would say, hey, I need you to go get a Dutch test run?
Yeah.
Because I think people, like you said, people can get on Google and be like, I got a headache, I'm probably going to die tomorrow. Legitimate concerns. If you're watching this video and you're a female, what long-term symptoms are they looking at that you would say, I need you to go get a Dutch test, hormone test run so we can look at it? Yeah. What are they looking for?
Top 3, probably number 1 is going to be some sort of cycle irregularities. If you're premenopausal, so if your cycle lasts 2 weeks, obviously get that ruled out by your OB. But if they're like, yeah, you're good to go, we'll just put you on birth control. Yeah, that can be one method. But if you're like, I don't want to do birth control, what else? That's really all they're going to discuss with you for the most part.
Okay.
So that would kind of be number 1. Number 2 is, and this is rampant, especially in females, but also in males, mood disorders. So depression, anxiety. Keep in mind, all of those hormones drastically influence the neurotransmitters produced in your brain that affect your mood.
Okay.
So hormones get off. All of a sudden, you're feeling a certain type of way and you can't figure out why. Yeah. That can be related to that. And the third piece is if you've got fatigue, energy, sleep abnormalities, that's where this cortisol piece comes in. For people that aren't familiar, cortisol is kind of that stress hormone, and it wakes you up and alerts you first thing in the morning, and then it should be nice and low at night. That rhythm can get flip-flopped to where it's high at night and then low in the morning, to where you're a really slow starter. You love the snooze button. You live on caffeine. You hit a wall at 3 o'clock. You just can't seem to make it through the afternoon. And then you get a second wind at night. And all of a sudden you're super productive right before bed, and you can't shut your brain off, and you just lay awake at night and you can't figure out why.
But how many percentage of people did you just describe though? They're living, they can't get up in the morning. They're smashing coffee and Red Bulls. They're tired at 2, 3, 4 o'clock, but when they get home at 6, they're busy. It's 8 o'clock. They can't shut off. They're watching the news, and now it's 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And they got to get up at 6.
You just described a lot of people.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So that was a female. Okay.
Yeah. And the quick thing too on that, because a lot of people come to me and they say, well, my doctors run my cortisol. The thing to remember with cortisol is it is a diurnal hormone. So it has this nice curve throughout the day.
Yes.
So a single time point, an 8 a.m. cortisol, tells you absolutely nothing other than the fact that you don't have a pituitary tumor. So congratulations on that one if it looks good. But you also want to know, what does that look like at 12 noon? What does that look like at 5 p.m.? What does that look like at 10 p.m.? what does it look like overnight if you wake up as well? And nobody's going to drive to LabCorp at 2 a.m. if they wake up to pee, get a blood draw.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. That's one thing I've learned with you. And people's like, oh, my cortisol's low. When did you take it? When was it? What was going on? We don't know. Right.
Did you eat? Or did you have coffee before it? All
right.
influence it.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're a male and you think, I think this one's a little bit easier. Is it easier for men? Low energy, poor sleep, poor libido, no motivation to exercise, mood disorders come with it. I can tell you that. The mood disorders come with it. Would that be pretty accurate for men if you're looking at that?
I'd say so.
Muscle mass loss.
Yeah, lack of recovery. Like if you're training in the gym to the point where you are staying sore beyond 72 hours, you either don't know what you're doing from a programming perspective and you're destroying yourself, which is okay. We've all been there. Or you've got a hormone piece that you're training adequately, but the underlying foundation isn't there. And so you just can't keep up with the recovery.
Okay. I feel like it's a little bit easier on men than it is women. Maybe, I don't know, maybe because I'm a guy. I don't know, Gray.
Potentially.
Say,
you
know. I mean, I can't compare it because I've never been a man.
I've never been a woman.
I mean, the other thing with guys is they're less tricky than females because hormone levels are fairly consistent. Whereas females are getting big swings every 2
they do.
weeks, 3
they do.
I just need food. That's it. Mike, how often would you say that somebody should get like blood work done or hormone tested or anything like that?
If you're just like checking in on things and you're fairly healthy, I would say once a year. If you're the type of person that you like data, or you're kind of like, well, I've had an issue in the past, I would do twice a year. But if you're actively like, if you're battling something like chronically, like chronic fatigue, and I say that term loosely, not medically, but in terms of you're just always tired, or you've got, I don't know, low vitamin D or something like that. That's probably where it's like, hey, you're not going to rerun all these labs every 3 months, but you're probably going to rerun certain labs every 3 to 4 months to check in on those. Whereas a doc might run a vitamin D once a year. Just for common knowledge, vitamin D is $18 at cost. I had a buddy, he got billed $235 through insurance, and he's 31 years of age just because insurance didn't deem it medically necessary. So like if you want to run these labs, just literally pay out of pocket for them, and you can monitor a vitamin D if you're taking 10,000 IUs. I have some people that have to take 20,000 IUs just to keep their levels up through the winter.
Wow.
And again, it's $18. So let's check it every 2 months while you're on that amount. And then you don't have to be scared that you're going to overdose, which is very tough to do. But yeah, simple things like that, get it run multiple times. If you're a diabetic, you're going to be checking blood sugar. You're going to be checking A1C every 3 months. You're going to be checking liver enzymes, all those sort of things for sure.
Yeah. I think I think one of the things I love about so far about the videos, we've identified when do I need to start looking at hormones, right? We talked about it earlier. The majority of people that have come to me that have said, hey, I'm not losing weight, I think my hormones are off. We agree. The majority of that is just compliance and consistency on your nutrition plan.
Generally speaking.
Around your fitness, generally speaking. But we've seen it. Mike, this is going to be a loaded question. We can kind of end on this. If you are a person have you ever met people that just ignore their medical issues? Like, I don't want to go to the doctor. I don't want to know what it is. I don't want to see it. I don't care, or they don't take the time or whatever. If you are a female, and I just, because females are, I think, are ones going to be more interested in this conversation. What are some of the long-term effects if they're having these symptoms, but they don't get it checked out? What can we be dealing with? Is that a loaded question?
Somewhat. It depends upon what it is. So for example, if it's, cycle irregularities and things like that, if you're dealing with a common one that a lot of people know about is like PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yeah.
And so that's usually a combination of 3 things, a triad. You'll see high androgens, so high testosterone. You'll see blood sugar irregularities. So these people are going to have a hard time controlling their blood sugar. And you're also going to see cycle irregularities, menstrual irregularities in this population. So for those individuals, you want to be thinking about high testosterone. So what is that going to do? Well, if you don't do anything about it, you could see darkening of the facial hair, deepening of the voice. You can see changes. Sometimes, depending on how high the testosterone gets, this can affect development a little bit, depending on the person's age. Blood sugar regularities, you don't keep those in check. Well, now all of a sudden, you're teetering on that. And menstrual regularities, the most common thing that everybody knows about is if you have a really heavy cycle, over time, you're going to become more and more borderline anemic if you're not getting enough iron.
Yeah.
And so that's really simple and basic, just input versus output. But people don't always take that into consideration. So
I feel the PCOS conversation is almost a whole separate video.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I've had a lot of people that you made in our group, I go back to a PCOS post you made 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's in our group, and I searched PCOS that has like 10 things you can do if you're struggling with PCOS that have been very huge in a few people I know. Right. Even like fruits and vegetables, eating every couple hours, all that kind of stuff. But we're close to the end. If you're watching this video and you think you have some of these issues, Mike has done an amazing job in consults with some people, breaking down, telling them, hey, go get this lab. Okay, how do you get it? Go get this lab, why you should get it, how to get it, how much it costs, go get it. They get it. They schedule with Mike. We sit down. We have an hour, 45-minute conversation of what does your lab say, what you need to do, what it says. You don't get that in the doctor's office anymore, right? You just don't. I've seen amazing things with people from changing 4 or 5 things, right?
Same.
So this is part 1. We're going to do the second one on the gut. It's another big subject. Listen, if there are 2 things that I think we all need better education on, myself included, it's hormones and the gut, right? Such huge pieces for everybody. It starts there. Mike always says, until you get hormones in check and the gut in check, everything else, weight loss, it's not going to happen. You got to get back to baseline first, right?
Yep.
So I appreciate you guys. We're going to stop this video.
With all due respect.